SHAPE programme, which he will tell us more about now. Over to you, Chris. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks Stelios for inviting me to this. So as Stelios mentioned, my name is Chris Johnson. I'm based at EPCC in Edinburgh in the UK. So I coordinate the PRACE SHAPE programme. So in this talk, I'll aim to give you an overview of the programme and what it can do to help SMEs. So I've got a 30-minute slot, but I expect my talk will be a bit shorter than that. So there should be time for questions towards the end. So I've framed most of my talk as a series of questions, which I'll try to answer basically in each slide. So I'll start off by really describing what SHAPE is and what SMEs can get out of it. I'll then go on to describe a little bit about the mechanism for applying to SHAPE, and I'll finish up talking a little bit about the actual projects that we have, the kinds of projects we have, and a bit about the future, which is obviously a bit uncertain at the moment as we move in towards things like Euro, HPC, and so on, but I'll mention a little bit about that at the end. So what is the SHAPE programme? So SHAPE stands for the SME HPC Adoption Programme in Europe. The programme was launched back in mid-2013 as a pilot call. There was then a second call launched in late 2014. And then from 2015 onwards, calls have been run at 6 monthly intervals, with the 12th call having just run very recently. So I coordinate the programme, which runs within the Applications Enabling and Support Work package within PRACE, alongside other core programmes such as the Tier 1 DECI, so Tier 1 Resource Exchange Programme, DECI, which I also coordinate, and the PRACE Preparatory Access Programmes. And they all run within the PRACE 6th Implementation Phase project, or PRACE 6IP, as it's more commonly known. So why does SHAPE focus on SMEs? Well, every few years, the EC carry out an SME review. The last one in 2018 found that more than 99% of businesses in Europe are actually SMEs, and that just over 25 million SMEs generate around 4.4 trillion euros in added value to the European economy, with around 98 million people employed within SMEs. You can easily look up the report, which has a lot more detail in it. So the question really is, how many of these can then benefit from HPC? Well, back in 2008, a study here in Scotland found that around 1,400 companies could use HPC, with around 300 of these saying that they were likely to. Now, if we scale those figures up to the whole of Europe, it indicates around 142,000 companies could use HPC, with around 30,000 that are likely to. Now, obviously, that kind of scaling has a large error margin, but even if a relatively small fraction of the 30,000 SMEs, that still gives a large number of SMEs who could actually benefit from HPC. So how can SMEs actually benefit from SHAPE? So the SHAPE programme aims to raise SMEs' awareness of HPC and to give those with little or no, or practically no HPC experience help in basically trying out HPC. So I'll talk in a couple of slides' time about what we really mean by HPC in the context of SHAPE, and what it may mean to SMEs. But first, I'll try and talk a little bit about some of the benefits. So there are a number of ways in which HPC can benefit SMEs. It can enable the development of new products that aren't practical without HPC. It can speed up the development, leading to a reduction in the time to market, which can also reduce the research and development costs. It might increase the quality of services and products, or it may just reduce the manufacturing costs, or may allow some kind of innovation. So we're seeing a merging of what we might call HPC and big data. This leads to more opportunities for HPC in new sectors that might not traditionally have used HPC. So we've had a number of projects, for example, in medicine and finance that are not traditional HPC users. So why don't SMEs already try HPC? Why don't they just try it out for themselves? Well, the simple answer is that there are quite a number of barriers to SMEs wanting to just try out HPC. So firstly, there's the actual cost of operation. If you take into account all the overheads, a first project could cost an SME a large 5 or even 6-figure sum, which most SMEs are just not in a position to spend when there's absolutely, there's no absolute guarantee of success. Secondly, the SME may have no in-house HPC expertise, meaning consultancy would have to be bought in. And thirdly, the SME may not have access to any suitable hardware to actually really try things out. So this all really implies risk if the SME hasn't used HPC before, but there is potentially high benefit. So what do we mean by HPC? Well, HPC isn't just about running on huge supercomputers. HPC can actually mean many different things. It could mean trying things out on GPUs. It could mean taking a code which presently runs serially on a single core system and enabling it to run in parallel, i.e. on multiple cores or perhaps tens of cores. It could mean optimizing a code via some kind of algorithmic improvements or increasing the amount of data that can be analyzed. It could mean taking a set of distinct components in the SME's toolchain or workflow and linking them together. Or it could mean providing some kind of service to users involving some or any of the above techniques. But all of these can have a profound effect on the way an SME does business. So how can SMEs actually apply to the SHAPE program? So we aim to make the process as simple as we can. We have a simple application form, which has some optional sections. So if an SME has a clear idea of how they might use HPC, they can include this information. If not, then this information doesn't have to be included, as some of the sections in the form are optional. No previous knowledge of HPC is required. At any stage in the process, we can put SMEs in touch with the nearest PRACE HPC centre to help them to develop a proposal. Once proposals are in, we have a panel which reviews the proposals and judges them on the strength of the business case, how achievable a project is. It also looks at the commitment of the SME, how much innovation is involved, and the wider social and economic benefits of the project. So what do SMEs get from a SHAPE project? The SHAPE project is really a collaboration between the SME and the PRACE Centre involved. So the SME gets two things. Firstly, and most importantly, the SME will get help from an expert, an HPC expert at a PRACE Centre. Usually that's between 2 and 6 months of assistance, of effort. The staffing is flexible, so often the work isn't on the SME's critical path, so it can be done over a longer time frame. So you might spread those 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 months over perhaps a year or something. Secondly, the SME can get access to the most suitable HPC systems within PRACE, and they get an allocation of machine time on this system. And we can help, of course, set up accounts and so on. In return, throughout the project, the SME must supply the domain expertise, which we won't necessarily have. At the end of the project, we do request a short technical document describing the project. We call this a white paper. But this can be produced in collaboration with the PRACE Centre, so SMEs don't have to do this alone. We also ask for feedback, help with any future publicity, and carry out a survey at the end or a year or so after the project finishes to ask about things like the return on investment, use of HPC, and so on, a year or so after the project ends. And I have some examples of the kind of feedback we have there at the end. So what is a typical SHAPE project? Well, there's probably no such thing as a typical SHAPE project, but so far we've had 71 projects approved. Around 60 of those have either ended or are in progress, with the remaining 11 or so just in the process of starting. So many of those have completed. And you can see a few of the SMEs logos there. That's by no means all of them. That's just a few random ones that I chose to put on the slide. But as well as SMEs from traditional areas such as engineering, biology, biochemistry, as I think I mentioned earlier, there's also other subject areas such as medical applications, but also shipping firms. In fact, we have one from Cyprus. And also firms doing things like, satellite geological surveys and so on. And really not your typical HPC users. Where do these projects actually come from? Well, we've had SHAPE projects from SMEs from 19 different countries. And as you can see the spread of these in the pie chart there. We're keen to get projects from new countries not represented there, or that have few projects to date. And we actually put together an initiative called SHAPE Plus, where there's an allocation of PRACE effort available for countries that are new to SHAPE. So that was to really encourage new countries. And we have widened the range of countries from which projects come from. And generally, we're keen to get as many proposals as possible. So please do let us know if you are aware of an SME, or if you are an SME who thinks that you could benefit from SHAPE, and I can provide whatever information you need to put together a proposal. So I thought it was worth just putting up a few examples of projects that we've had. So in the UK, we had a project, an SME called Renuda. They were optimizing 2D flow for faster, better steam turbine design. So they're an independent company offering software development, consultancy, training support, and they specialize in the area of engineering known as computational fluid dynamics. So their goal was to improve the performance of their industrial steam turbine modeling code, Codex. And their business impact was really to allow clients to perform simulations which really were prohibitively expensive or complicated beforehand. And they are finding that this is opening up new market opportunities. Secondly, we have a company called Albatern. So they were really a modeling company looking at wave power generation. And they found really that, of course, developing hardware is very expensive. So they were looking to do modeling at large scale. So you can have a wide range of these of different wavelengths to look at. They expanded their model to do parallel computing. So basically they added a library known as PETC, and that enabled them to do much larger scale simulations to enable better design of their hardware. So then we return to Optima Pharma. So the PRACE Center HLRS in Stuttgart in Germany, they worked with Optima Pharma to use a code known as OpenFoam to model a clean airflow. So HLRS enabled them to use OpenFoam to use to do their simulation, and also to provide mock-ups for the clients. So due to the SHAPE project, the airflow simulations are much faster and cheaper than before. commonly utilized in the R&D process now. Furthermore, Optima Pharma has offered major customer specific simulations of ordering filing machines for the customers' marketing policies. And you can actually look at the white paper there that's online if you go to the SHAPE URL there, as for the previous one. As I mentioned that before, SHAPE isn't just about traditional areas of HPC, so we have quite a few in, say, the medical area. So we had an SME here that was looking, this Invent Medical group, that were looking at cranial orthoses, that's basically head supports. They needed to do lots of designs of testing, but I mean, as you can imagine, creating one of these in physically and then testing it and then changing a bit, creating another one, physically testing it, that's all very expensive to do. So what they found is that actually they could do their simulations using HPC instead, and then you could only actually do their 3D printing of these objects when, as and when needed. The SME had tried out a standard open source HPC package, Espresso, and that's compared it to a well-established commercial package, ANSYS, they're already using, and found that this worked well. Again, you can find their white paper online. So what do SMEs actually think of SHAPE? So what we do is when a project finishes, about a year or so afterwards, we actually send them out a survey. And we send 2 surveys out, in fact, one to the SME itself and one to the PRACE Centre that has worked with the SME. We ask them questions on how many new customers they've got, how their turnovers change, what their return on investment is, any new products or services, any access to new markets, any enhanced software features, any staff recruitment that's come about due to the SHAPE project. But also look at sort of more intangible measures, things like optimization that improved any service or software solution that could lead to an increasing the number of customers, and also any research and development that had been accelerated. So we've done this twice now, and we surveyed 14 SMEs. And what we found is that after the SHAPE project, 10 of those SMEs are continuing to use HPC. So as you can see, 6 of them there are using cloud-based systems, 3 of them are using their own HPC systems, and 1 is using HPC resources from an HPC center. 11 SMEs out of the 14 report that they now have more staff with HPC skills than previously. Typical rises are around 1 to 2 employees. They've reported a number of impressive code performances, and there's been clear improvements in the business process, particularly a faster time to market and increased sales. You can look up online and that we have various deliverables available. Not all of them are available just yet, but some of them will be available at the end of the project, but I can provide more information if you're interested there. So what about future plans? Well, HPC within Europe is now entering a new era with HPC funding being handled by EuroHPC. SHAPE has become known as as a brand in itself. People have heard of it. It's people have sort of getting to recognize the logo a little bit. So we're hoping that some kind of similar activity can happen within EuroHPC. Discussions are underway at the moment, but I don't have any more on that. At the moment, we're continuing with SHAPE, just sort of business as usual. There are a few challenges to be tackled. So one of the things that we were very keen to do was to increase the number of proposals we got overall, and increase the number of countries that were represented. So basically the number of countries where proposals came from. Both have actually increased recently. I mentioned the SHAPE Plus initiative, where countries where that hadn't had many proposals before, had only had maybe one or zero projects before, and they could get effort from this this allocation of money called SHAPE Plus. And actually, we have a project running in Cyprus where that was just the case. So we have been increasing the number of countries. We've also been increasing the number of proposals. We now have the PRACE Industrial Liaison Officer who has brought in quite a number of proposals. So we're very pleased with the amount of SMEs who are interested and we're working with. So these things have improved recently, but we're always on the lookout for new projects. So, you know, if you're aware of any SMEs or you are an SME or working in an SME, then just, you know, do get in touch. We are assessing ways in which we can improve. So we're looking to improve the application form, try and simplify it a little bit. SMEs experience varies a lot with HPC. Some of them know very well what they want to do and have a clear idea how they might take a code and apply HPC to it. Others just want to try it out, but they might not have a clue yet just exactly how they were going to do about that. That's fine, but we want to make sure that the form caters for both of those kinds of people and doesn't put off SMEs that really don't know anything about HPC. And we're also looking at the possible increase of call frequency, but obviously this will all depend on how things move into the Euro HPC era. So SMEs are the key to a thriving economy. Many SMEs would benefit from using HPC, from reduction in cost, time to market, etc. But there are barriers: the initial cost, the risk, getting access to resources. So the idea is that SHAPE helps SMEs to overcome these barriers and delivers tangible benefits to their business. So that was my talk. There's a link there to SHAPE, but if you just Google PRACE SHAPE, maybe add HPC on the end, you'll easily find it. So please just do look it up. Do get in touch if you are interested. My email address is there, and I'm available to answer questions either now or at some point in the future.
Thank you very much, Chris, for your presentation of the SHAPE program. If there's any questions for Chris, please raise your hands or unmute yourselves and ask. So, Professor Alexandro, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chris. This was very interesting for us. I have a question. It's more regarding how you at EPCC is doing this rather than SHAPE, if I may ask. Is it okay?
Yes, I mean, it's yes, yeah, well, yes, go on. So what?
I mean, when we're dealing with companies here, there is the issue of intellectual property. So suppose, I get somebody to work within the co-development project. How do you deal with the intellectual property produced?
So basically, that stays with the SME. So we don't take anything away from the SME. We can sign NDAs and non-disclosure agreements with SMEs. But basically, if we help them with their code, then the intellectual property rights don't belong to us. I mean, we do ask that there's a white paper at the end that describes broadly what happened, but obviously some of that may stay confidential. But we.
I mean.
Yep. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, there are two cases. One is if they pay for the personnel. I guess here that the intellectual property belongs to the SME. But if you use European funding, is it clear that, I mean, how do you do it? This is the question. If this personnel is not paid money, but is paid from resources, so SHAPE or other resources, EuroCC, etc. Yes.
So there is a limit within the basically an EU limit on how much help an SME can get from programs like this. And what we've done is we've calculated basically the amount of staff time, how much the staff time costs, and how much they get in terms of resources. And the amount of help that we give them comes in under that limit. So it's we don't consider that it's a problem. So basically, so that's one of the reasons why an SME can only have one SHAPE project. So once you've had your SHAPE project, that's it. Even if you've got new work, you just get one, so that we don't break any of these rules. But because the limit, we're looking at sort of 2 to 6 person months, and when you actually work out what that is in terms of finances, basically it's okay. So even though they're getting this for free, that's allowed.
Yeah. So that's the kind of limits you put in order not to run into trouble with the intellectual property. That's your answer, right?
Yeah, basically it should not be a problem. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Is there any other questions for Chris regarding the SHAPE program? I mean, Chris, are we going to have another SHAPE call in this year?
Yeah, so the plan is to open one in April. I'm going to have to do a bit of a analysis over how much effort we'll actually have, because of course the projects will have to be finished basically by the end of the year, because PRACE 6 IP finishes then. So it could be that we'll be looking at smaller projects or a smaller number, but the plan at the moment is to open a call well within the 1st of April basically. But I will make sure that that will be clearly advertised on the PRACE website and so on. But if anybody's interested, just get in touch. And we will let you know when it opens.
Okay, thanks. Does anyone else have any questions for Chris? No? It seems not. So I would like to thank Chris for his talk very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me.
No problem. Our next talk is titled NCSA Industry Overview with Computational Breakthroughs and Synergies with Artificial Intelligence. Our speakers will be Dr. Shared Courage and Mr. Brendan McGinty. And we're due to begin this talk at 5 p.m. Cyprus time, so in about 17 minutes. So we'll take a break till then and we speak then. Thank you for now.